All right, perfect. The Hangout on air is live, so like we would be starting the show at this point, or they're ranting, or whatever the heck we're gonna do.
Oh, can I rant about Marshalls? Because actually, that would probably get us some business.
Let's just go ahead and do a test run today. The first rant of the industry is going to be Julie Roberts going to rant about Marshalls. Julie, your
Yeah.
thoughts on Marshalls and how they
No
relate to golf?
volunteers. Do we call them volunteers?
You can call them grumpy old men. You can call them old fogies. You can call them whatever you want.
Yes.
And I think you can curse on here too. So go ahead, let
Oh,
it
really?
fly.
They don't have a mute button for that or a bleep? Is there a drafts folder in this?
This is all like live, you know.
All right. No, I have nothing negative to say, actually. I think as long as marshals are kept inside at all times and never reach the outside to talk to any customers, be around any customers, I think they're okay. Yeah.
So basically, this is just like a coffee shop or something for them. It's just a place to hang out
Yes.
and make somebody else's life miserable
Yeah. Well, they can book tea times just whenever, just
for free.
as long as I'm on the phone or dealing with another customer,
That's the
you
best time
know,
to do it.
yeah. Yeah. So if they need any instruction on how to be a better marshal, I have ways. I have ways to tell them how to really nail it. Certainly send me emails about what you need and where you want to play outside of my.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. Like, can you get me on, Kansas City Country Club?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
And then, is it okay if my son's friend plays with us today and is complimenting? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. Can we have an ASIM? Is that possible on a Saturday morning?
Which leads me into comps. Comp golf. It's not a free round, it's a complimentary round. And, there's really no value that's tangible. Therefore,
I've heard this from
to
the
a
Golf Now rep.
marshal,
Tell me more.
to a
Yeah.
marshal, comp golf is just why not? Why wouldn't you? Why wouldn't you? Give it away.
I
You know,
remember
I
it was
mean,
one of the first things I remember about, like when I left Falcon Ridge,
yeah,
and we had just a roster of old codgers, just
yep, 30 of
and,
them.
and I left, and it was like my first, besides the birthday idea, because that was the first one. I'm like, why aren't we using the birthday field and all this stuff? But the kind of the one I was like, why did we have old men as starters? Like, why were they there? Like, the demographic doesn't fit up, and it got me to think, just in terms of laziness. You want to talk about just kind of lazy? Yeah,
Yeah.
it's like they come in the door and they're like, hey, do you need help marshaling the golf course? Yes, right? Because I haven't done anything, and they come in and they see me, and that's it. But we haven't. If you were going to go out and find the perfect marshal, would it be an 80-year-old grumpy white dude? Is that your kind of customer service face of the organization that you want, or would it be somebody like you and your beverage cart personnel, or somebody younger that can
What are you
talk?
suggesting?
I'm just suggesting that the demographics don't work in terms of grumpy old people. Plus, they don't take instruction well. Like, hey, if you have a problem, this is what you're going to need to do. You're going to need to, use this phrase. You're going to need to push them along, but not be mean. Like, they don't do that stuff. There's no changing their behavior. They're
Do you think
done.
there's somebody that has mastered this out there in the world? Do you think there's somebody out there that is like the master of marshals? That somebody that like runs the ultimate volunteer program where everyone's happy?
Um,
It's
mm,
like Marshaltopia.
Marshaltopia. Yeah, I don't know. The closest I've seen to Marshaltopia, so my second users conference on the other side where I was at 4 we were drinking heavily at this is probably we still had it at LaGrange. So a guy named Chuck Higgins, and interesting now. A good story about Chuck is Chuck now serves like as an executive in the PGA, but Chuck ran a crappy little golf course in Texas called Battle Creek or Battle Lake, Battle Creek.
I'm with you. Okay.
And we were just talking about the demographics of Marshalls, and like it's just not somebody like I don't want to see 80-year-old guys ever, and I'm a golfer. Like nobody wants to see 80-year-old guys. You know,
Right.
I mean, that
Right.
it's depressing, and they're mean.
Hassling
So-
you around the golf course. Mhm.
Yes. So he came up. You know, he was like, you know, we were like, well, would it be Hooters girls on us? I'm like, no, because it can't be that blatant. Well, Chuck made it almost that blatant. So he's got the birdie girls, and he's got like a staff of 15.
No.
They rotate throughout the entire property. They'll check you in, they'll beverage cart, they'll work kind of the grill 19th hole, you know, flipping burgers. It's just a team of them, and let's say on a busy day you've got 5 or 6, and you know, so and it's just literally all of the tips and all of that stuff are just pooled, and he pays them well as well. Like he pays them a good wage, you know, like you would not just $2 or $4 an hour, whatever the minimum wage is. And so he's like, it reduces the whole I want to be on the beverage cart. But it's like, no, they're part of a team, and all the tips go in, and all this stuff. And obviously, they were making tons and tons into the tip pool, you know. But it was just, I mean, in the deep part of Texas, not even in like Dallas. He goes, this just fits my demographic. These are just dudes that are not the $20 shooter, but maybe like the $30 shooter, and they want to drink beer or whatever. So he's got the birdie girls. So. But he saw his green fee revenue go up.
That is brilliant, and why that's not being shared as a best practice in PGA circles, I don't know.
Well, now Chuck sits in like the Texas. Like I connected with Chuck on LinkedIn. He may be executive director of the section, so it just shows you're like.
Oh, yeah, perfect. But okay, so do we have some measurable result? This is you know, there's all these great ideas out there, but. Did we find that there was an increase in rounds and customer satisfaction from this?
He found like his food and beverage doubled. His green fee revenue was way up. You know, customer satisfaction on it was obviously really high because his play is 95%, you know, female or whatever. I mean, just to not make it sexist, like if the shoe's on the other foot and you're gonna have a ladies' day or a ladies' league. Like you're gonna want your handsome young assistant pro out there teaching the ladies how to play golf, you know.
There's no doubt about it. So
Chuck made a killing, and because he was like, I'm a little worried about like, because he looked at it because he was looking kind of in the Hooters model or in the you know, tilted kilt or whatever. He's like you can't pay them, you know, whatever the minimum wage is like for a server. You can't pay them $3 an hour. You know, you got to make sure that they're well paid. They don't like golf, so golf is like, oh, you can play free golf. That doesn't matter. I don't care, you know. Like, but you got to pay them. And so he kind of went on a limb because he owned the golf course. He went on a limb and like tripled his labor budget, you know, on the F&B side. And that's because where it all ended up. He said he made it back in beer in like 60 days, you know, the annual budget. So, and he said there was just, you know, they were working the grill and just, you know, guys would stay around and hang out a little bit more and, you know, just. It just gets the whole thing. You could do it with old men, but it's just they'd have to be really trained and really friendly, you know.
Right, which personalities are personalities is what I've discovered, and at that age, there's a lot less chance of someone wanting to adapt, and that's okay. I understand.
How do you test for that though? You're about to hire some grumpy old man, be like. The sky is yellow, and then see if he gets into an argument with you about it, you know, or something. How do you test your adaptability?
Role playing. I mean, I guess if you really wanted to have the litmus test, you do a role playing scenario where you say, hey, here's a challenging customer situation, and tell me how you would handle it. You find out really quick if this is a person that gets it or just doesn't get it. And there are people in this world that will never get the other side of the customer service scenario. So, and that, you know what, that's okay. And I do think those folks, especially at that, you know, when you get to a certain age and above, are not going to change their personality to fit into a volunteer role.
But they're there because they want the free golf. That's what they want. They want the free golf. They're not there because they like serving customers or want to help your business succeed. They're there to do whatever is the minimum thing in order to get them $0 golf.
Correct. So it's not an advantageous equation and this is a great example of where we built a component of a golf course operation based on a certain need at a certain time, and we refuse to get away from it. Despite the changing nature of the climate that we're in now and the different demographics that we cater to, we just continue to beat a dead horse, basically. We continue to
think about the cycle, because the old men keep coming in every winter. Do you need help? Do you need volunteers? It's one less thing you have to go out and proactively do as the head golf professional or general manager, is to go out and find younger, talent and have a labor budget, right? So we can reduce the labor budget and less money, so it's like we started peeling backwards in the golf industry. Like, we got to peel back the labor budget. I hate peeling back the labor budget, but that was like the first thing to go, and it's like, this is just a side effect of that peel back of the labor budget, which is you've got a bunch of people that walked in that are retired and love golf but hate customer service, and they're going to make your life miserable, and they're going to make your golfer's life miserable. So
right, and we don't find that wouldn't be acceptable in most of the paid positions that we employ at our properties. It's certainly not an acceptable practice at most private clubs.
Oh my God.
You go to a private club and the marshaling or the course monitoring is done by the professional staff, and it makes total sense to me. So would I rather, this can be said for marketing tee times as well. Would I rather hire a professional who is trained in certain skills to provide support, whether it's selling more tee times, whether it's handling difficult situations on a golf course or pace of play issues. I think I'd rather pay the professional to do that. I think it's important in our industry that we have the best and the brightest out front. And what's happening is we have the best of the brightest inside, little 10-minute interactions with customers, and then the 4 or 5 hours someone's outside, they're dealing with somebody that's not very much fun.
But they're the ones you see the most. Like, think about it. Like, you train your counter staff over and over and over again because they're handling the money, and like the interaction's got to be good. But like, literally, the 5 hours you're out there, you're going to see the marshal a couple times. You're going to get more interaction on the first tee than you are with anybody else. And if that guy's like, "You guys played here before? All right, good. Well, hit when they're clear. Boop, that's it. You're right. You're off the tee."
And I can count on one hand literally the times that I've been a guest at another golf course, and the marshal staff, or at a minimum the starter usually, has a friendly demeanor, again, gets it, and is
But it's a handful of times. Like, it's so rare that you notice it, right?
Correct.
You're like, oh my God, what the hell's going on here? Like, he's asking me what my name is, and is talking to me, or whatever, he's engaging the customer.
And it's that impactful. And we know that as golfers, and being guests at other properties and being sort of flying under the radar as a golf professional or a person in the industry. You just go as a Joe Public, and you see really quick what makes a difference. And then you go back to your facility and you kind of lose sight of it because you're just stuck in the operational mode of, just the numbers game and not thinking about what experience am I providing. So the more that I broke that down for myself at my own property, the more I realized I've really got to get that volunteer old guy marshal sort of away from customer interaction as much as possible. And bless their hearts, they're okay at running carts and setting up the range and doing a few tasks here and there, and making sure if somebody calls and needs water out on the course or has a cart broken down, okay, now we can go handle
So you're
that.
a glue guy. You're a glue guy. You're not a customer service guy. You're a glue guy to, hey, help, the range needs this, or wash some
They call
balls,
that
or
the gaffer.
what's that?
Is that the gaffer in the movies? Is that what?
The glue guy with the grease man. That's what I'm thinking. Ocean's 11, right?
Yeah, there you go.
When they were going to get the ping, because they needed somebody, and they're like, which one's the amazing ping? And he's like, the little Chinese guy, and then he does the 3 backflips to the to the poles, and he's like,
there will be a movie reference in every discussion we have.
but Ocean's 11. All right, hold on, I gotta turn on Bubble Guppies here. Hold on a second, Dave.
Yep.
Not available.
Bubble Guppies is not available. Why not, buddy?
It's unavailable.
It's unavailable. Okay, well let's fix it here. So Julie, do you have money in the budget to add for non-volunteer type of people? How about George, buddy? Is that okay? All right. Want to do buy the kite?
Yeah. So, and that's a good question. I would say that slowly but surely, I'm trying to find a way to create more dollars for better paid professional staff from the clubhouse.
At the end.
So, what would be hilarious is if all of a sudden you just started, like
I do one at the end.
you do the starting for like a day and just see people's reaction. They'd be
Oh,
like, "What?
yeah.
Hold on."
I already told my staff last year that, hey, it's a dream of mine that, one of us is the starter on the first tee every Saturday. That's, again, taking a note from the private club world.
That's a private club thing, absolutely.
Yeah. So why in the world?
If you're a good private club professional, right? Why are you doing that? Because you know that the tee sheet's full, and you want to FaceTime with the members because they're your ultimate bosses, right? That's why you go and handle the disputes or the things. Hey, you got to handle it with tact. Hey, I need you to hurry up. There's some people behind you or whatever. In the private club world, that's not an entry level type of conversation. But in the public world, you're like, oh, who cares? There's more golfers coming. I don't really care. Like if they get mad because of that, then they can go leave. It's like, well, now there's not as many golfers as there used to be, so that's not the attitude anymore.
Right. But you never, in the the sense of community that you establish in the private club setting needs to be mimicked in the public course world as well. And you can't do that if you put somebody else out there as the face of the operation. So somebody had talked about the gentleman at, was it Cog Hill in Chicago? I had heard stories about the
Frank is always out there, and now Joe is out there always, or it was Joe and now it's Frank, but he was always out there, always. And now Frank he's got his signature kind of big straw hat, and he's always out there. Like as people come in off of 18, shaking their hand, and every tournament he's out there, like he's directing traffic,
Right.
And then after the BMW, as people were kind of waiting, to leave the parking lot or whatever, he was just kind of walking. Thanks for coming, shaking people's hands. I mean,
he's part of the brand. He is a part of the brand. He's a part of the logo, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. But so that community though, like that's kind of that was one of the roots of 4 reservations. I'm sorry, Golf Now reservations. It was one of the roots of it, which was to identify the customer, and Harry's whole thing was the Norman principle. If everybody wants to be Norm, all right, so you got to know who I am, you got to know what kind of golfer I am, when I play, who I play with, do I like beer or gin and tonic or whatever it's at. But if you know that, and going back to the beverage cart discussion, that they're not to be a sexist, but our male bartender at Falcon Ridge was a guy named Greg. Hippie looking guy, like long hair, was in a ponytail, and I'm like, what are we doing? Like this guy. Greg was phenomenal. right? He would
Right.
remember your name, what you were drinking, what you drank last time. Oh yeah, you know what? Here, try this, and he'd give you a little sample of this beer. I mean, like you do that, right? You're coming back to that spot. Here, Julie. Let me give you a little tug of this new, this new keg. Let me know what you think of it. But like that sort of stuff, like without even if I'd been there 2 times, especially as a homeowner in the area, like
Right.
I don't know what we were paying Greg, but it wasn't enough.
Well, and I use this example with, my own staff all the time. My very favorite place to go when I'm, not needed at work is a certain restaurant in town, and it is all about how after 2 or 3 times of going there, they reached over the bar and shook my hand and introduced themselves to me and wanted my name. So I suddenly got their name, my name was exchanged. The next time I came in, they made sure they remembered my name. You don't see that in restaurant situations anymore. You don't see that
Ever.
in busy, popular, high traffic, Westport hip restaurants anymore. And they obviously made it a priority to have their staff, especially their bartenders, get very personal with people. That's a very high margin item that they're selling there at the bar.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, I mean, but if you can afford it, but if it gets you in for one more drink, a month, all right, and I can do that 100 times, right? I've paid for that person's hours, for the month, but I mean,
why does that equation seem so simple, but yet we can't seem to? I don't know.
Because I think we've cut too much, and restaurants to me that's a nerve for me because no restaurant knows who I am, none, right? And no restaurant has ever captured my database information, right? So and that's not a 2014 thing. That's since I've been paying for restaurants, right?
Yeah.
And with that, I think when you see Groupon, where was their easiest point of entry? In the restaurants, because they've never built a database. They didn't have 500 Julie Roberts. I know Julie Roberts. I know that they don't have that. They have never built that. So I guess how does golf wake up from that and then build it? I think in the current climate of cut, like you're like it's just me behind the counter. Like I can't go start because I'm here behind the counter. So the volunteer is all I got, And so the budget's actually got to go the other way in terms of labor, and that's somebody's going to look at me like my hair's on fire. You're like, no. We're going to get to know 500 people at my course, and we're going to give them such good service that they're going to come back and play one more round. So that's, 500 rounds at $40. That's 20 grand in theory, right? But
it takes
quantify that.
So, and I've seen, I've been able to measure the difference even just from my own personal, changes or growth throughout my life cycle as a golf professional. The times when I've been most engaging with people and the times when I've had other things on my mind or whatever it may be that doesn't have me at, running at 110%. If I'm running at 70%, I see a more negative response. You can define that negative response in a number of ways. If I'm putting all of the work in and all of the effort in myself, and that bleeds, out to the rest of the staff, and then the customers feel it, the regulars, the members, they feel that, they're engaged in the vibe. That does translate into more frequent visits from everybody whether it's regulars, less frequent golfers, members, whatever. They want to be a part of it. It's like Norm probably felt like if he didn't show up at Cheers on a day,
you'd let him down or something.
They would miss him, and I'm probably missing out on something.
Yeah.
So I've got to be there, and it's true. This particular restaurant that I'm talking about, I feel like if I miss a week, they might be missing me.
Ooh, that is awesome, man.
Yeah.
That is so great.
Yeah. So I took that lesson and thought, wow, there's a chef at this restaurant that I think is a rock star. And I would go there, and if I saw him in the kitchen, I'd be like, he's awesome. He's awesome. you know, and when he's there, I'm like, man, I'm definitely eating a couple things tonight because
Yeah,
he's
but
back.
if the chef sees you and he's like, "Oh, Julie's here," and he like pokes his head out, "Hey, Julie, how's it
Got a
going?" Like,
hug.
you
Got a
know,
hug from him.
hug. How about a hug and check it out? There's this got a new entree that's killer. You're gonna love it. You didn't ask what the price was, and you didn't probably even care what the entree was. You're like,
Oh no,
done. You know,
I've got an experience coming my way.
it's the experience. And I've only been, I don't know. I'll be interested to hear your thoughts on this one. I've only been to two places that even talk about this or even have something close to it. So one of the guys on my list I want to get is Tom Apps up at Deer Run, and he just talks about the vibe, right? Like he just wants,
Right.
he is very particular about his vibe, right?
Right.
It's got to be hip, fun, have a drink, smoke a cigar, have a beer, relax, and if you're too uptight, then get out, right?
Right.
And then the only other place where I've even remotely seen that, I was at Bears Best in Vegas for a bachelor party in the spring, and just me and the bachelor were there a day early, so we went and played Bears Best in Vegas. 8 in the morning tea time or whatever. We were a little hungover, but like Coldplay and like the Who like playing on the driving range,
Really?
So if somebody wanted to like practice in quiet or something like that, like it wasn't happening, and they just said, you know what, forget it. We're gonna set the vibe early and have have some speakers going on the driving range so that people
And
are.
this was the club doing this.
This was the course doing that. Yeah. I mean, think about it. Like sometimes I like to practice in quiet, but not really up. I usually have my headphones in, and they probably just
Right.
saw too many guys with their headphones in. They're like, why don't we just pump the music that they're listening to already, and
Right.
just got them in and everybody was just in a friendly, chilled out mood. And I was like, do you have anything quick for breakfast? And she's like, well, when's your tea time? And I was like, we're like in the tea in 5 minutes. She's like, well, what do you want? I'll just bring it out. Like, we were just shy off the tea, and a couple of breakfast burritos came rolling up. So
Right.
those little tiny things, she
Right.
made an extra, whatever the breakfast burritos were, $8 or something like that. That's $16 to the bottom line of a breakfast burrito that cost them $2, right? So she justified her job for a $14 thing, but it was just, it was a vibe. So have you been to a golf course where there's a vibe?
Yeah, I think I think that is starting to happen on in those barbecue tour events. Where you've got the guys that are they're just scrambling every
What's
week.
the barbecue tour?
Well, it's the guys that are casual or recreational golfers that they find a scramble to play in every week.
Oh, okay.
And they're cashing. They want to cash. They want the prizes.
Yeah.
They want the
The
goods.
rolls. Yeah.
You got it. So they put their team together and they go exploring, within a probably 150-mile radius of their hometown, and they go scramble. And it's a serious business, right? And I've noticed in a lot of those types of events, that's where you're seeing the boom boxes in the back of the carts, and it's it's the country music around here typically. But what?
Or Soundgarden if the Roberts have their music going.
Possibly, heavy metal. So at first I was a little turned off by it. I thought, well, that's a little self-centered that you're not being considerate to the other people around you and on the golf course. But is that the vibe that the event or the property is trying to promote? Probably not. The vibe is probably of relaxed fun, those relaxed rules that the Golf Channel was talking about this morning, which I sit there and say, okay, fine. They're now packaging what is already sort of understood in circles out there. But
there was one thing in there. It's like most people are already doing this. I'm like, all right, so if most people are doing this, we're just gonna reiterate that that's what happens. Like,
yeah. And again, you're assuming that people who are not that into the game are watching golf news in the morning. Really?
Well, but that's where I don't even want to tell you this because I was gonna tweet it, but I was like, nah, it's not good. That's where I've seen all of the Get Golf Ready ads lately. They're all on the Golf Channel.
I know. Oh, I know. And I'm one of the biggest opponents to.
There should never be $1 spent.
Never.
PGA. Not because they don't want to support the golf community. That's
Right.
that is literally preaching to the choir. If you're watching the morning drive, you are a core golfer, so you don't need to do anything about Get Golf
And
Ready.
you probably don't want to talk a lot about relaxing the rules. In fact, What came out of it for me was, are we trying to antagonize the USGA right now?
Ooh.
That's what I felt like came out of it.
Well, the
That's what I
Palooza
got out of it,
perspective.
but that's because I'm an insider in a way, and so I'm like, I feel like this is poking.
Well, it's
Poking
bifurcation.
organizations
It's that's what
saying,
we're talking about. Which was as soon as I heard the word of bifurcation, I'm like, that's what we should already be doing. It's like and yeah, we are poking the USGA, and I'll just spoil the Pellucid perspective later today or tomorrow is also going to poke the USGA in kind of the handicap world, taking their spin on the humongous decline in golfers that are getting a handicap. But as soon as I heard bifurcation, when they were talking about the anchored putter thing, I'm like, why aren't we already doing this? Like
that's a no-brainer.
basketball, you have bifurcated rules. Like you play
Right.
ones and twos or what, like you play to 11 and then you switch. Like the core of basketball is there, but it's not like 5 fouls and you're out. Like if I was at a pickup game and I'm like foul, I call foul, and then I go to the free throw line to like shoot my 2 free throws. They would they would be like, "What the hell are you doing?" Right? Like there are no free throws in a pickup game. So
Right.
so like for golf,
Is there not metal bats in college baseball?
there's all sorts of things. I mean, like a couple months ago, we were playing a public golf course, very slow, horrendously slow pace of play. The group in front of us, a guy comes back on the fourth hole. I'm like, did you lose a club? And because that's usually the case. He's like, no, I've got a re-tee. And we all like, my buddy that's a 15 handicapper, he goes, because he has no filter. He goes, whoa, are you kidding me right now? And the guy's like, what? He goes, and he's like, that's wild. That's the most wild thing I've ever heard. And the guy's like, yeah, they're making me do it because we couldn't find the ball. And Tully's like, you gotta be kidding, man. This is golf. This isn't the tour. And and the guy's like, well, and then they did it again on the ninth hole. They came back. And so, and then at that point, my buddy was like, you can come back here again. Somebody's going to need some protection because you guys are too slow and you're coming back here for a re-tee situation.
Well,
So.
and I had to laugh because I watched Ted Bishop, make a commentary on the relaxing of the rules. It was all great, and it was interesting to me because I thought, Ted, let's expose a little bit more about ourselves. We can actually comment as club professionals that we absolutely play that way. More than anybody else, we play with relaxed rules.
Really? Yeah. Well, not in the event itself, but just if you and your hubby are going out, you're playing relaxed rules.
Absolutely.
But remember when they were talking about like even like the whisper of it, like with, I don't know. It'll be interesting. I'm sure the PGA and the USGA got together, but when they banned the anchor putter, and the PGA did a survey of their members, and it was overwhelmingly like, don't ban the anchor putter. This is like not what we need right now. Like that was just kind of swept under the rug a little bit. Like, oh, the PGA supports the USGA. No, they don't. Like you pulled them in that
Right.
for the anchor putter, and nobody supported the anchor putter ban. And then the tour was like, we're kind of thinking that may not be the best idea, right? And when Fincham said that, I was just like, that's crazy. Like, is this actually going to happen? Like, they're gonna break away from what the USGA is claiming to do. Nothing ended up coming of it, right? Like things ended up dying down. But maybe it was a warning. Like, you try this again without conferring with the club professional, without conferring with the PGA Tour, you're going to find yourself alone in that fight, because the tour in theory could say, we abide by the USGA rules with the exception of this, and this, because the NBA is the biggest example of that. They abide by all of the FIBA rules except 24-second shot clock. Like they've modified the game for the American audience, and that's exactly what the PGA Tour could do, which is like, would I not watch Keegan Bradley and Jason Duffner or whatever if I said, oh yeah, they expended the club limit to 15 or 16? Like, I wouldn't care. Like, then they're not playing by the RNA USGA rules. Like, I wouldn't care. I want to see the best play golf,
Right? Absolutely. And at the end of the day, even in the club professional world, when we're playing recreational golf, we are not really sticking to it. Why? Because we want to keep moving. It has nothing to do with it. I just don't want to delay the guys I'm playing with. I don't want to delay the guys behind me. We're
Let's
just going.
go. You know, let's
Playing
go.
golf. I don't care, you know. So and the score, you know, there might be an X on the card, and at the end of the day, you say, yeah, I took double there, you know.
I,
So what? It's like, yeah, it's about what I should.
Out of bounds, drop and go. You know, leaf rule, drop and go. Like, this is about where it was. Like, you're under the tree still. Like, if you hit a good shot and are able to get up and down for par or whatever, awesome. Like, just
Right.
go.
Right. If I get
you
a
know?
bullshit lie and I'm playing a casual round of golf, you better believe that I'm moving it.
Up against the root. Up against the root. When I saw that one, I was like, do we hit balls by the roots? Like, here, here's a shot that's a good chance, 80% chance that you're going to do some serious damage to, you know, the thing that you need to play more golf. Like, but you know, you got to play it as it lies. I'd be like if one of my buddies told me that, like, I'd be like, not only am I moving the ball, but we're like not friends anymore.
We're not friends anymore. Yeah, it's like you know, playing Prairie Dunes a couple weeks ago, right, or a week ago, and my mother-in-law, you know, plugs one into the lip of a nasty greenside bunker on a par 3, you know, and I get up there as fast as I can to pluck the thing out so that she doesn't even think about climbing into the bunker. I'm like, ooh, free drop.
You're just up on the side, hacking away. You know, if Tiger couldn't do it and hurt his back, what's going to happen to Grammy? You know, she's, you know, calling the journey on that one.
But God love it, you know.
Julie
try,
made us play it where it lies, you know. Julie's a stickler for those USGA rules, you know.
Right.
You can't have her doing that. It's not in the spirit of the game. You know, you can't move that ball, Grammy. Bad breaks have to start somewhere.
Get in there. Don't hurt yourself. Okay.
Hang in there. Tell you what, though, after 2 swings, if it's still plugged, then you're going to have to take an unplayable and then put it, you know, kind of, you know, somewhere else. And then call me over and then we'll discuss where that ball is going to get placed.
Yeah. Yeah. Right? I mean, so while I totally appreciated what they did on Morning Drive this morning, I also think, you know, they're speaking to an audience no different than the Get Golf Ready commercials, that it's just falling on deaf ears because we focus so much energy, and golf course architects, they were giving kudos to David McClay Kidd because he was like, gosh, we're making golf courses too hard. Really? Is this the first time we're having this revelation?
David, really? You are making golf courses too hard. It's like when Jack was like, yeah, we're making golf courses too hard. I'm like, Jack, that's what they pay you to do. They are paying you to make a $1 million
just for your name, probably. You know? So I sit there and I say, okay, we are literally uninviting the recreational golfer by building the courses that we're building in the first place, because not only are they hard and challenging, but you lose so many golf balls that it's like a financial commitment that you don't want. You know, you don't want.
And you combine that with the fact that each Pro V is $5, right? If it was $2, if I could have a Pro V for $6, or for $6 a sleeve, I probably wouldn't care as much. But it's like it's right that tipping point where I'm like, I want to find that Pro V. It's $5.
Yeah,
I don't know.
So this is funny. So we advertise. This is great. We advertise Get Golf Ready and relaxed rules to an audience that has no interest in that. Yet
you're right. They were probably screaming at their TV this morning. You know.
Yeah. And then we watch, you know, a PGA Tour event, but I don't see, you know, ads for Volvic golf balls. You know.
They can't afford it.
Because why? Why would Volvic advertise to that audience?
Those are the serious core golfers, man. That's not the Volvic guy. You know.
Right.
Or lady.
So,
you know?
So I'm like, so yeah, the $99 package for the, you know, the person that's, you know, wanting to get back out. Now here's the interesting thing. I've heard Pete Bavacqua say we're not going to keep doing that. That we are going to start advertising these things where it would maybe make more sense.
I asked somebody on, oh God, it's somewhere, and he was pretty high up on the PGA totem pole, and he's like, yeah, that doesn't make any sense. I'm like, dude, seriously, like the Outdoor Channel, the Lifetime Channel, E, Bravo, the Cooking Network, Food, anywhere else. The Cartoon Network. By the way.
Right.
You watch the commercials on PBS Kids or on the Cartoon Network? All for mommy. Paper towels, dishwashing things, like
Yeah.
Mexican vacations. Like I'm like, junior golf. Hey, need somewhere to drop your kid off for 5 hours for $99? Be like, yes, cool. Go to this website. Here's all of them. I would like to secret shop the Get Golf Ready. Figure out, send my wife to the website, see if she can A, register, B, go to the golf course and just video record it. Just send her with some Google Glass and just record the whole process, and let's just see how it's going. Because
Well, and I'm gonna give you a little hint as to what's going to happen. The Get Golf Ready class will be canceled because there wasn't enough participants. So she'll sign up, and it's okay. It's more navigable now to get enrolled in a class, and they've made improvements to that registration process. However, actually seeing the class come to fruition, I think, has been difficult. And I think among our own ranks of club professionals, we definitely all feel a little dejected, and it's tough because we don't. The majority of at least the public operations or the courses that are really made for programs like this, we don't have the depth of staff to pull it off. Like you see,
that's it. We've cut.
You hear a lot of great results coming from resort operations because resort operations.
When you've got a couple teachers, you and somebody else, you and two other people.
Right, and so they're able to pull off the 10, 12, 20 player groups. They're coming in for on a bus tour or whatever it is, and so they have a captive audience, and they're able to capture that, and they're able to grow numbers, and that tends to pad the stats a little bit. But by and large, we're not really finding that in the normal markets at the normal good old public golf courses.
See, and the two things we've been talking about have the same, I think, kind of intertwined mix. Was the cut of the labor budget, right? Because if there's just not enough of you, if there's not a young Julie Roberts or Matt Roberts that's ready to teach, want some extra cash, like it should be the $99, and there should be some sort of match in there. There should be some sort of extra incentive from TaylorMade, Golf 2020, some sort of grant somewhere, USGA sitting on a couple $100 million, PGA Tour. Like, let's make it worth your while, right? Not only are you going to get paid, but you got a grant sitting there. If you give 100 of these lessons verifiable, you're going to make an extra $5,000 or something. Like, right. Okay, I'm in, right? And so, right. But we've cut the labor budget. This is, and I talked about this with Stuart for a while. So we've cut the labor budget, but there's a couple war chests out there in this world that are untapped, and that's the USGA is sitting on a war chest, PGA Tour is sitting on a war chest, and your PGA of America is also sitting on a war chest. So it's like we're making these huge dollars to these nonprofits that the money's not flowing back to where it should. There should just be $5,000 grants. And it's just like if you're a pro and you give 100 people a Get Golf Ready thing, not only are you going to make the money from your facility and from them, but you're also going to get a grant, cash money. But that's the money just to say, hey, Mr. Golf Course owner, individual owner, you're going to have to front this. They're not going to see that tangible benefit. They're like, oh, it's going to help golf, it'll help raise all the tides, but I got to pay my bills. My bills are an individual thing. So it's
and I guess if you took, when we tell people that they should try and analyze, what the cost of a round of golf really is at their property, which is such an important thing to do, obviously, so that you don't see, like, when you're bartering rounds for whatever service you might be bartering them for, so you actually see exactly what those dollars are. For example, the high schools that use Minor Park to practice or qualify for their, I've got a couple of private high schools in this town that need an easier place to qualify because some of their
Yeah,
kids
JV team, girls teams, who knows, freshman, sophomore team, yeah.
You got it. So they come out, they use the property, and this year I decided to be a little bit more sort of, I just wanted to clarify with the coaches that they are paying for the rounds and they are paying for the range balls, but they had never signed a ticket. They never received the bill. The bill goes to the school. They never see it. And I thought, this all needs to be as transparent as possible,
Mm-hmm.
and I want them, making notes. So I slid a bill to, the receipt to sign to one of the coaches the other day, and it was for $42. It was for 7 golfers at $6. Okay? So, and this is at a time when I could be getting $33 from a guy riding 18. Okay, a guy or whoever riding 18.
I hope this story has a good ending, but I don't think it's going to. But okay, go ahead.
But I want to be, I want to invite these high schoolers to get better and enjoy it, and so there are some things that I think you sacrifice here and there.
Well, I think what you could do though is if you want to get creative, is you could say $33 times 7, right? And then you'd have a negative line item amount called grow the game expense, right? Grow the game / student expense. So if it was 7 times 33, 210, 231, right? And then you'd have $190 negative line item in there, kind of like a gift certificate, right? Be like, and so you could say, hey, listen, legitimately, I have ponied up, X thousand number of golf course, dollars to grow the game for range balls, for whatever, I mean.
Now we're talking about
if that money came back to you, right? Let's just say it came back to Minor Park.
Yeah.
If it came back to you in cash, that's great. Now we can buy a really big rental house in Rosemary Beach. If it came back to you with caveats that said you can use this for snag equipment, for
brilliant.
Junior golf person, whatever,
I love it.
So.
Because here's the thing, the coach, when I slid that ticket over that said $42, and mind you, I'm gonna try not to tinge this in a negative way. Mind you, the players on this team drive Range Rovers, etc.
Did he look at it and go?
She looked at it and went, "Oh my goodness, we're expensive." And I thought, you have no concept of the value of a round of golf. Like many people, including our own industry people, our own.
She's in the same camp as 90% of this world.
Right. So it just drove it home to me that we have not done a good job educating people about the pieces of the puzzle that go in to make a golf course actually one nice big picture for you. It's like if I took a component of every the average green fee that I make at Minor Park and said, this much has to go to infrastructure, costs, capital improvements down the road. Mm-hmm. This much has to be taken out for growth of the game initiatives. But what you just said, I love. I've heard people out there with money or foundations that are involved in golf saying that they would like to subsidize rounds in some way, shape, or form. Fantastic. Let's start subsidizing the rounds that these high schools play, these kids, because I don't want to turn them away, but there's an understanding that if I'm really, really busy on a day, then they come out and I have to say, sorry folks, you're just going to get to practice today, and they're treated like second-class citizens, and I don't want to do that. It's just
listen, you're going to go, it's just the fund is the general benevolent golf fund is going to have to, kick in,
Right.
But in theory, you would want it. Like the benevolent golf fund actually would be like, hey, make sure that there's like if somebody gets cut from the varsity team,
correct,
and they're not on the JV team, that there's just like this other team.
Yes, there's club golf. And we've talked about that locally, having like there's club volleyball and club soccer and these things are less competitive, whatever. And we've talked about doing that, but you're right. If it's not subsidized, how do you really do it?
All right, hold that thought. I'm going to stop the broadcast. I want to see if this still goes.